So let's begin the show. Okay, fine. So this is Mahaveer Sir from Mahaveer Jain Academy. So I am working as a science teacher in excellent English medium school, Bijapur. So I am here today to teach you one of the most important and easiest chapter of the biology, that is the life processes. So today let us try to understand in detail about the life process chapter. So what all things are included in this chapter? Mainly the nutrition, respiration, transportation and excretion, all these things in context with the animals, that means human beings, and in context with the plants. We are going to study all the life processes. So my dear students, first let us try to understand what do you mean by life processes. Chapter name we should know, right? So life processes means what? All those processes which are necessary to maintain a life in an organism. All those processes which are taking place in all the living organisms, irrespective of whether it is unicellular or whether it is a multicellular organism, whether it is a plants or animals or insects, whatever you take. These processes which are taking place in the body of an organism, it is must. Then only that living organism is able to sustain their life or maintain their life or able to survive. Such processes we call them as life processes. Which are those? Nutrition, respiration, transportation and excretion. One by one we are going to study in detail about this process. This is all about the chapter. So what all, just let us have a quick glance on the things which we are going to study in this chapter. Nutrition, especially we are going to discuss about the human digestive system in detail, and also about the photosynthesis and steps involved in the photosynthesis. Then comes the respiration. Respiration means we are going to discuss about human respiratory system and types of respiration, that is aerobic respiration and the anaerobic respiration, and also respiration in context with the plants also we are going to discuss. Then comes the transportation. In this mainly we are going to concentrate on the circulatory system, how exactly the transportation of the nutrients or the minerals or the waste product which takes place inside the human body with the help of the human heart. And also we are going to discuss about the xylem and phloem, how the conduction of the water and conduction of the food takes place where in the transportation, and excretion in context with the human beings, that is about human excretory system and structure and function of nephron and excretory waste product by the plants. All those things they are really very simple, and it is one of my favorite subject. I love biology. Hope you do so. That's the reason you are here today to watch and understand this chapter, and I'm going to explain in detail about all the things which are covered in your NCERT. So let us begin with the first thing, that is the nutrition. Every day we are having so many things, right? Yes, and all the living organisms, one or other way, they take the food. So what is happening inside the body? Why we are telling this as the food? What is so special about that? We are not having any plastic or stone or mud and all. We are having specifically some items, and we are naming the different kinds of food items for that. We are calling that particular thing as the food because when it's going inside the body of any organism, that body is getting utilized by that food. That's the reason we are calling it as a food. That's what we mean the term so-called the nutrition. What is nutrition? It is a mode of intake of food by an organism and utilizing by the body. We call it as nutrition. Anything which goes inside the body of an organism, or it will take inside the body of the organism, and it is getting utilized in the body, utilized in the form of energy, utilized in the form of growth, utilized in the form of so many different metabolic activities or the reactions which are happening in the body, which is useful for us. Only those things we call it as food, and such process we call it as what? We call it as nutrition. So let us try to understand this particular concept over here. So what they are telling here, what is nutrition, what they are trying to tell here? The process by which a living organism obtain the food, take the food and utilize this. That means it is utilizing inside the body for the energy and different purposes and all. That's the reason that process we call it as nutrition. Two types of nutrition are there. One is the autotrophic nutrition, another one is, you are right, heterotrophic mode of nutrition. So let us try to understand what it mean by autotrophic and heterotrophic mode of nutrition. In generally, if I want to speak, autotrophic means, auto means what? Auto means what? Not that auto. Okay. The auto means what? The self. Trophic means what? Trophic means nourishment. Nourishment. Self-nourishment. They are preparing their own food. Which one? The green plants and the algae which are having the chlorophyll in it, they have capability of preparing their own food by the process so-called photosynthesis. So they are self-nourishing. They are not depending for any other organism. Such type of nutrition we call as autotrophic nutrition, and those organisms particularly we call them as what? We call them as autotrophs. Heterotrophs means what? Or heterotrophic mode of nutrition means what? Hetero means what? Hetero means others. Trophic means nourishment. Like apart from green plants and the algae and all others, all the higher animals, if you take an example, including human beings or animals, we don't have capability of the undergoing photosynthesis. We don't have any sort of chlorophyll. So we need to depend on others. Others mean directly or indirectly, we are depending on what? On the autotrophs for our nourishment. Such type of nutrition we call it as heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Let us try to understand these two concepts in detail and with the examples and all. See here what they are telling here. Autotrophic mode of nutrition or autotrophic. These are the types of nutrition. Now see here. It is a mode of nutrition in which the organism prepare its own food by using inorganic substances like carbon dioxide and water in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. In the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. What is happening over here? The process so-called photosynthesis is taking place. What is photosynthesis? We will study that. Again, now try to understand. Autotrophic nutrition is a type of nutrition where these organisms like green plants prepare their own food by using what? By using inorganic substances like what? Carbon dioxide and water. And what they are doing? In the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll, they can synthesize their own food. So that's the reason we call this nutrition as what? This nutrition as autotrophic in nature, and all the green plants including blue-green algae, we call them as what? We call them as autotrophs. Similarly, another type of nutrition is there, that is heterotrophic mode of nutrition. See here, it is a mode of nutrition in which organisms depends upon others or depends upon other organisms to obtain the food. Why we need to depend on others? Because we don't have capacity to prepare our own food. That means we need to survive. That means we are depending on other organisms for the nourishment, for the food. Such type of nutrition we call them as what? We call them as heterotrophic mode of nutrition, and those organisms particularly we call them as what? We call them as heterotrophs. That's what we call. Hope this is clear. Example you can give. Apart from plants and algae, all other things will come under heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Now see here, types. There are two types of autotrophic nutrition, and we are going to discuss types of heterotrophic nutrition also. So types of autotrophic nutrition, one is the chemosynthesis, another one is the photosynthesis. Chemosynthesis and photosynthesis. What do you mean by chemosynthesis and photosynthesis? Photosynthesis we are studying from class 5th or 6th. I don't know. See here, photosynthesis already we discussed about the what it mean by photosynthesis. Again, in detail we are going to discuss about that, the steps involved in photosynthesis, how exactly the food is prepared by using the inorganic substances, along with that sunlight and chlorophyll also. Chemosynthesis means what? The organism which prepare their own food by using chemical energy. There are some bacteria like Nitrosomonas bacteria. So what they do, they use the chemical, and where this chemical energy is coming from? The chemical energy is coming from oxidation of ammonia, where this ammonia is converted into nitrates. During this process, what is been synthesized? The chemical energy, and this chemical energy is utilized to prepare their own food. Such type of organisms are called as chemosynthetic, and that process is called as chemosynthesis, synthesizing of the food with the help of the which energy? Chemical energy. Photosynthesis, already we have discussed this about this, and we are going to discuss in detail about the photosynthesis also. Now see here, photosynthesis. Before going for photosynthesis, let us try to understand the types of heterotrophic mode of nutrition. We know heterotrophic mode of nutrition is a type of nutrition in which the organisms cannot synthesize their own food. That means they need to survive. So that's the reason they are depending on others for their nourishment. They are depending on other organisms, or directly or indirectly they are depending on the autotrophs or the green plants. Now see here, holozoic, saprophytic and parasitic mode of nutrition. Holozoic will discuss. First let us try to understand the saprophytic and the parasitic mode of nutrition. See here, saprophytic nutrition means what? The organisms which obtain their food from dead and decaying organic matter. That means what? The dead and decaying organic matter, from there only, the decomposed matter, from there they are taking the nutrients and they are able to survive. Such type of nutrition we call it as saprophytic nutrition. The best example you can remember here is the mushroom. Mushroom is a plant, but why they kept under saprophytes? Because they don't have the chlorophyll, they cannot prepare their own food. So what these mushrooms are doing? Now imagine this is the mushroom. This is the mushroom. So they grow on dead and decay matter. That means what they are doing? First they secrete what? The digestive juice on the dead and decaying organic matter. So this digestive juice will convert complex food substance into simpler food substances. That means digestion is happening outside the body. Once they are converted into simpler food substances, they are taking inside their body. Such type of nutrition we call it as saprophytic nutrition. Hope this is clear. Okay, fungi, bacteria, example. See there, a type of heterotrophic nutrition where organisms obtain nutrients by decomposing dead organic matter. The dead plants and insects or organisms which are, when they come in contact with the soil, they start decomposing, right? So from there, what these saprotrophs will do? They will obtain the nutrients and they will survive. Such type of nutrition we call it as saprophytic nutrition. Then the next one is the parasitic nutrition. Two terms you should remember in the parasitic. One is the parasite. Another one is the host. Two terms are there, parasite and host. Now what do you mean by parasitic? Best example, you take the example of the mosquito, bed bugs, leech. These are general example which you are known about. What is happening here? See, this particular parasite or parasitic organism, what they will do is, this organism directly they obtain the nutrients from the other living organism. Saprophytic, what happened? From the dead and decaying organism, they are obtaining the food. But parasites, what they do? From the other living organisms, directly they are taking the nutrients. You see in the bed bugs, right? The leech and all these things, mosquito, what they are doing? They are sucking the blood. Means what is there inside the blood? Inside the blood, nutrients are there. All the digestive nutrients are there. They are sucking it. Okay, and they are able to survive. So such type of nutrition we call it as parasitic nutrition. The organism which are taking the food or taking the nutrients directly from other living organism will become the host, and the living organism which is taking the nutrients will become the parasite. That means mosquito is a parasite, we are the host. Or worms, which will happen in the intestines of the calves or the small children and all. Worms are also kind of parasite. Bed bugs, you take the example. Bed bugs are what? They are also parasitic in nature. So that means this type of heterotrophic nutrition in which organisms obtain nutrients directly from other living organism without causing immediate effect or without killing them immediately. If the mosquito bite will not die, if the bed bug will take the little amount of blood, we are not going to die. Short-term effects are not there, but long-term, definitely it is going to harm us. One such example in your NCERT which is given is the Cuscuta or Cuscuta, whatever you can. There is a what? A marble. It's a climber which will take the support and climb. What this Cuscuta will do, you know? So it is having the lack of nutrients and chlorophyll is not that much sufficient. So once it starts growing at the early stage, it will come in contact with the host plant, which is tall and big and which is healthier, which can prepare its own food. When it comes in contact with this host plant, they start taking the nutrients from that particular plant, and that's how they survive. When you go across the roads and all, big trees and all, you have seen so much of spread of the climbers or the Cuscuta plant all over. It will be kind of yellow greenish in color, and definitely it is going to affect the host plant. So this is about the parasitic mode of nutrition. Remember the examples. And the major thing in this nutrition part, we are going to discuss about the holozoic mode of nutrition. See, in this case, this organism, they took the dead and decaying, the nutrients from the dead and decaying organic matter. Here in parasitic mode of nutrition, what they did, they directly took the nutrient from the other living organism. But in holozoic mode of nutrition, it is a type of heterotrophic nutrition where the organism take the solid food inside the body or ingest the solid food, then they digest. After going inside the body only, the digestion is happening. But saprophobes outside is happening. In parasitic, already the digestive nutrients which are there in the blood, they are sucking that or from the plants or from the animals. But holozoic mode of nutrition is a type of nutrition in which the solid food is taken inside the body, then it is digested. Such type of nutrition we call them as holozoic mode of nutrition. Example are amoeba and the animals. So in this chapter we are going to discuss the nutrition in amoeba and the nutrition in the human beings. That means human digestive system in detail we are going to discuss, and also how the nutrition takes place inside the amoeba. First we are going to discuss. Hope this is clear. So let us not waste too much of time and let us try to understand the photosynthesis. Then after that we are going to discuss about the stomata and then the nutrition in amoeba. So let us try to understand the photosynthesis process. Very important part of the photosynthesis. Two things are there more oftenly they ask question. That is, one is the equation, one is the photosynthesis equation formula. Fine. Let me write it over here once again. 6CO2 12H2. Okay. The equation, and very important, so many times they ask in this in board exam, that is steps involved in photosynthesis. Very important, and for sure this midterm they are going to ask 100% one question from the steps involved in photosynthesis. Every year they ask. So let us try to understand the photosynthesis process. Here, as I mentioned you, photosynthesis process. So what is happening in photosynthesis process? See, we have carbon dioxide and water. See, we know the plants what they do. See, this is a plant, imagine, and these are the leaf. So this is the radiation from the sun which is coming. So plants will take the water and minerals from the soil, carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and sunlight or the light energy which is coming from the radiation of the sun. And inside the leaf we have something so called chlorophyll. How better we can write the definition of the photosynthesis? Very simple. So plants, green plants, not all the plants can prepare their own food. No, only green plants can synthesize their own food because of the chlorophyll. Because of the chlorophyll. Why it is so? Let us try to understand here. See here, photosynthesis, it is a biological process or biochemical process in which green plants synthesize or prepare their own food by using carbon dioxide and water in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. They will not use chlorophyll and sunlight. In the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll, they use carbon dioxide and water and they prepare their own food, or they prepare the food or the carbohydrate. That process itself is called as photosynthesis. How exactly they prepare the food, we are going to discuss in the steps involved in the photosynthesis. This is the equation. Carbon dioxide, water, again, in the presence of chlorophyll and sunlight, they prepare the food. C6H12O6, that is what? That is the glucose or sucrose or the food or the carbohydrate. And during this process, which gas is released? Carbon dioxide is released, and along with that, water also will be formed. The very important concept here to try to understand, that is the steps involved in the photosynthesis, step by step. 100% they are going to ask in your midterm exam. So let us try to understand this steps involved. Listen very carefully. It's very, very simple. Steps involved in the photosynthesis, how exactly step by step the photosynthesis is happening. So that's what we are trying to understand. That's what we call it as steps involved in photosynthesis. Now see here, first step is very simple. Absorption of light energy by chlorophyll. What are the green pigment is there? No, leaves are looking green because what is there inside there? There is a green pigment. We all know that. That is the chlorophyll. This chlorophyll pigment is there. No, it is having the capacity to trap the light energy which is coming from the radiation of the sun. That light energy is utilized to make it chemical energy. Now you might ask the question, why chlorophyll is able to trap the light energy? Why not we? We also having hemoglobin pigment. Why that hemoglobin is not able to trap the light energy? Because of the magnesium ions which are present inside the chlorophyll and which are having the unique molecular structure. They are able to trap the photons which are coming from the light energy, and that's what we call it as absorption of the light energy by the chlorophyll. That light energy is being absorbed. Why? Because of this reason only. Once this light energy is absorbed, now see the second step. Conversion of light energy into chemical energy. What is happening here? Conversion of light energy into chemical energy means what? This light energy is utilized to form the chemical energy in the form of NADP molecules, and this particular light energy is helping in splitting of water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen. If the water molecule has to split, if the water molecule has to break down, it needs some energy. Without any sort of energy, no chemical reaction takes place. And here also some chemical reaction taking place. What is happening? Water molecule is breaking down into hydrogen and oxygen. That we can call this as a hydrolysis, breaking down of water molecule. Yes or no? Again, now see here. Conversion of light energy into chemical energy. That chemical energy is again later utilized for what? Reduction of or conversion of carbon dioxide to carbohydrate. You will come to know that. Now see the second step. Conversion of light energy into chemical energy and splitting of water molecule into hydrogen and oxygen. So oxygen is a waste product. You see here, photosynthesis process. Now here 6CO2 is there and 12H2O is there. Water is there. Now what has formed now? Oxygen is been formed, and that oxygen, they written incorrect equation. 6O2 should happen. Okay, CO2 will be not released. Oxygen will be released. Okay, forgive me for writing incorrect equation. Okay, so when see now hydrogen is formed and oxygen is formed. Oxygen being a waste product, it will be released, and this hydrogen will combine with the oxygen molecule and form the water molecule. And now see here, the leftover thing is the carbon dioxide. Now what happened in the third step? Reduction of carbon dioxide to carbohydrate. If you think logically here, no, oxidation reduction both are taking place in the photosynthesis process. Yes or no? So this reduction of carbon dioxide means carbon dioxide is reduced. Means what? There is a addition of hydrogen to the carbon dioxide. Addition of hydrogen is reduction. Removal of oxygen is also a reduction. Addition of oxygen is what? That is oxidation. Now to the carbon dioxide, hydrogen is being added. That's the reason CO2 and hydrogen together they form what? C6H12O6. That is what? Carbohydrate or the food or the glucose. Hope this is clear. Okay. That is the steps involved in the photosynthesis. First step, absorption of light energy by the chlorophyll, which is coming from the radiation of the sun. Why chlorophyll will absorb the light energy? Because of the magnesium ions. The molecular structure, the arrangement of the magnesium ions inside the chlorophyll is so unique that it can absorb the photons which are coming from the radiation of the sun, and conversion of the light energy into chemical energy, and that is utilized in splitting of water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen. Then this particular chemical energy will help in addition of the hydrogen to the carbon dioxide to form the carbohydrate, that is reduction of carbon dioxide to carbohydrate. Now let us try to understand here. See here, H2O is there. No. Now if you see oxidation reduction, you studied in the chemistry first chapter, right? To this carbon dioxide, what is being added? Hydrogen is being added. So carbon dioxide is being reduced or it is undergone reduction to this. Okay, again oxygen. Okay. Again from the water molecule, the hydrogen is being removed from H2. If you remove hydrogen, then it will convert into what? It will convert into oxygen. This is not carbon, it's oxygen. That means this H2 is being oxidized or oxidation. That means this is best example for what? Best example for redox reaction. Redox reaction, oxidation reaction are taking place, okay, in same equation. So this is all about the photosynthesis process. Next one is stomata. One mark they often ask, and this diagram is very important. Open and closed stomata. So let us try to understand. See here, what are stomata? Stomatas are the tiny pores which are present on the surface of the leaves in the epidermal layer. And these stomatas are made up of guard cells. Each stomata are made up of two guard cells. Two guard cells. And what is the function of the guard cells? Yes. Anybody can tell? Yes. The function of the guard cells is to opening and closing of stomata. On what basis this opening and closing of the stomata takes place with the help of guard cells? Now imagine, these are the guard cells which are present in the stomata. When water concentration in the leaf or in the guard cell will increase, the guard cells will swell. When they swell, slowly the stomatal pore will open. When the amount of water concentration will reduce, that means guard cell will shrink, then the stomata will close, or guard cell will close the stomatal pore. There's a simple logic over here. Okay. See, the exchange of gas, two major functions. One is the exchange of the gases and transpiration. Stomata main function two are there, exchange of gases, and the second one is transpiration. Transpiration. What is transpiration? The excess amount of water from the plant body is let out into the atmosphere in the form of water vapor through the what? Through the stomata. That is called as transpiration. So the plant closes these pores when there is no need of carbon dioxide for the photosynthesis, which takes place during the night time. The opening and closing of the stomatal pores are done by the guard cells. We know that when the guard cells swell, then the water flows into them and causing the pores to open. Similarly, when it shrinks, it get closed. When excess amount of water is a plant body, it want to send the water into the atmosphere in the form of water vapor. So the guard cells will swell, it will open by itself. When water is less, definitely it will shrink and guard cells will close. It don't want to let out all the water molecules into the atmosphere. So a very important diagram. So you need to practice this diagram. Don't forget, diagrams are essential part of your exam. Next one is the nutrition in amoeba. Okay, let's discuss the nutrition in amoeba. How the nutrition takes place in amoeba. We all know that amoeba is a unicellular organism and it is having irregular shape. Even though it is unicellular organism, in amoeba also the digestion takes place and all the processes of the digestion takes place, like ingestion takes place, digestion takes place, then absorption takes place, assimilation takes place and egestion takes place. Even though it is unicellular organism, even though it is not having the different organs or different system, like how we have the digestive system and the different organs of the digestive system, they don't have anything, only few are there, but all these processes are also taking place inside the amoeba. Let us try to understand that. Now see here is an image of the amoeba. Okay, it is kind of omnivorous, we can tell, omnivorous unicellular organism, both plant and animal product it will consume. When any food particle is coming near to the amoeba, it will develop the temporarily finger-like projection, so-called pseudopodia, means false feet. That means when the food particle is coming, no, so they produce the extension, the finger-like extension, and they take that food particle into the body. That process of engulfing of food into the body by the amoeba, that process is called as phagocytosis, or we can call it as endocytosis. Phagocytosis or endocytosis. So once the food will go inside the body, it creates the food vacuole. Inside that, what will be there? The digestive enzymes will be there. They will break down the complex food substance into simpler food substances and that get utilized inside the body. This is how the digestion takes place. Let us try to understand step by step. Now, suppose imagine this is the amoeba. Okay, when the food particle is near, no, what this amoeba will do? This will develop the finger-like projection near the food particle. Later, this food particle will become the part of the body. This is the nucleus. And they develop the food vacuole. Inside that food vacuole, digestive enzymes will be there. They will convert complex food substance into simpler food substance. What is that? Breakdown of the complex food substance into simpler food substance. What is that? That is called as digestion. Digestion is the breaking down of complex food substance into simpler food substances, so that the simpler food substances can be utilized by the body of the organisms for the energy, for the growth and development, repairing the damaged tissue, etc., etc. Now see here, the first process is ingestion. They are telling ingestion. So the process in which amoeba takes the food using a finger-like projection, so-called amoeba, and that process of engulfing of food is called as endocytosis or phagocytosis. One mark. Then what will happen once the food will go into the food vacuole? Here what will happen? The digestive enzymes are secreted into the food vacuole. They break down the food into simpler substances. That is, digestion is happening. Absorption. Post-digestion, this particular digested food is absorbed by the body and getting utilized inside the body for the energy, for the growth and the repairing the damaged part of the cell. Then assimilation. What do you mean by assimilation? Yes, utilization of the absorption means absorbing by the all the part of the body. Absorption. Assimilation means this absorbed nutrients when they get utilized inside the body for the energy growth. No, so we call that as that process as a what? That process as assimilation. Then egestion, that means undigested food is expelled out. See, amoeba is a unicellular organism which stays inside the, it is aquatic in habitat. So with the help of the diffusion and osmosis, this movement of the food particles or the movement of the water molecules will take place. So this is all about the nutrition. Here you can expect 1 mark question about the phagocytosis or endocytosis or about the pseudopodia. Keep that in mind. The next one is very interesting part of this chapter, that is the nutrition in human beings. We are born as a human beings, at least we should know, right, how exactly the digestion is happening, which part of the digestive system, what kind of function it is carrying. So everything we are going to discuss. So before that, let me try to tell you that when I tell the nutrition, I told nutrition what it is, a mode of intake of food by an organism utilizing by the body. We heard the term so-called what? We heard the term so-called food over here. So, and we have something called the nutrients which are present in the food which we are taking inside the body, like what? Carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins and minerals. Remember, carbohydrate, proteins and fats are the major source of the energy. Vitamins and minerals, they will not provide any sort of energy, yet they are essential for the body. Deficiency of these vitamins and minerals will lead to some or other diseases. Remember that. See, our food is designed in such a beautiful way that we require more amount of carbohydrate, we require little bit less amount of proteins, then very least amount of the fats in our body. That's the reason we see the meals every day, what we have, the lunch, dinner and all. No? We have to, we daily consume 2 chapatis, this much amount of rice and all. Yes or no? Majorly what is there in chapati, roti or kind of sabji and all, majorly we have the carbohydrate, the major source of energy. Then comes the proteins in the grains or the egg whites, in the sprouts and all those things, we have the proteins. And very little amount of fats will be there in the terms of oils or the groundnuts what we consume. No, the fat content or the milk product what we consume, so that is lesser in quantity. Okay, so let us try to understand the nutrition in the human beings in detail. Okay, and it's very simple. So first thing is the alimentary canal. A single canal is there. Mouth is there, esophagus is there, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, rectum and anus. Single passage. Different designs are there, different parts are there and different functions they are carrying out. But there is a single passage is there. That single passage we call it as what? We call it as alimentary canal. A long muscular tube from mouth to the anus. This long muscular tube only, it has so many different parts, like esophagus is the stomach, small intestine, large intestine, but it is a single passage from the mouth to the anus. So inside the buccal cavity, what all things we have? One is teeth is there. Then we have the salivary glands which are associated with the buccal cavity or the digestion. Then we have the tongue. So tongue, different sets of teeth are there. That is not there in NCERT. We have incisors. We have canines. Incisors for cutting and biting. Canines, 4 are there for piercing and tearing. We have molars and premolars are there. Both help in crushing and grinding the food. In total, what they are doing? They forms the uniform texture of the food. They break down larger food items into smaller food items so that it will be easy for digestion. Then we have the tongue. So what is the function of the tongue? We all know that rolling of the food, mixing the saliva with the food and also swallowing of the food and also for speaking and all. But in contrast with the nutrition, this tongue will help the food to mix with the saliva and also helps in swallowing. We cannot swallow the food without help of the tongue. No, we will not have the food like that. It will not go inside, right? No. we take the help of the tongue. Then only we can swallow the food. Very important part of this buccal cavity, what we are going to discuss here, buccal cavity, or in generally what we call it as mouth, that is the salivary gland. Salivary gland, remember, will secrete the saliva. Inside that saliva, we have salivary amylase enzyme, which will break down the starch into simple sugar. Now see here, salivary gland secretes the saliva, which contains the enzyme. What is the name of the enzyme? 1-Mars salivary amylase. So what is the function of this enzyme? It is breaking down the starch. This starch is what? Complex food substance into simple sugar. The simple sugar is simpler food substance. It is converting the complex food substance into simpler food substance. That means what is happening here? Here digestion is happening. Digestion not takes place inside the stomach only. Digestion will start from the stomach itself. Hope this is clear. 1-Mars. But okay, in the inner lining of the mouth, we will be having the salivary gland, which will secrete the saliva. Inside the saliva, we have salivary amylase enzymes. What is the function of salivary amylase enzyme? They break down the starch into simple sugar, which is present inside the food. That simple sugar is a simpler food substance that can be easily utilized by the body for the energy and all. Hope this is clear. Next one is esophagus. Inside the esophagus, this is the important thing. Remember, peristalsis or the peristaltic movement. See, what is esophagus? It is a long, soft muscular tube connects the mouth to the stomach, and here no digestion occurs. It is a connection between the stomach and the buccal cavity. Whatever we swallow the food, that food is taken down into the stomach. But it's not like we swallow the food suddenly through that esophagus or so-called food pipe, the food will be dropped down in the stomach. No, it's not happening like that. What is happening exactly over there? Let us try to understand over here. That is, now imagine this is the esophagus. This is the esophagus and this is the stomach. When the food will come here, food will come here. So there is a kind of rhythmic contraction and relaxation of the muscles of the esophagus. It will contract, relax, contract, relax, contract, relax. Means it is pushing the food towards the stomach. That movement is called as what? Peristaltic movement or the peristalsis. 1-Mars question, remember. Now see here, when the food will come here, here it will contract. Then the food will come here, again it will contract, relax, contract, relax. So kind of waves will be created. Now say for example, if there is a less amount of paste in the toothpaste, very less amount is here, what we'll do? We'll hold it in reverse and we start squeezing towards or down. Yes or no? So we are creating contraction, relaxation to make sure that the paste will come out, right? Similarly, esophagus will push down the food towards the stomach with the help of the peristalsis or the peristaltic movement. That's what they're trying to tell here. Food is pushed down through the peristalsis. Rhythmic contraction of the muscles in the wall of the esophagus will help the food to move towards the stomach. Hope this is clear. Okay, if you want, you can take this screenshot. So here we can expect the 1-Mars question, peristalsis. Here we can expect the 1-Mars question, that is the enzyme so-called salivary amylase. You can see here. Now comes the very important part of your chapter, that is the stomach. And let me drink a little bit water. I'll come back. Till then you can have a look on the screen. Okay, back to the pavilion. So many questions will arise from the stomach and the small intestine, mainly when it comes to the enzymes. Okay, so let us see, liver, pancreas, salivary gland, they are not part of the digestive system, but these are the glands associated with the digestive system. Means these glands will secrete some sort of juice which will help in breaking down the complex food substance into simpler food substance. Now let us try to understand what happens inside the stomach. When the food will come into the stomach, then what happens over here? So what is stomach? What is stomach? Stomach is stomach, sir. What is stomach? With what we should tell? It is a large muscular organ. Okay. So the inner lining of the stomach is having gastric glands and they secrete gastric juice. This gastric juice contains three major things. One is HCl, the enzyme so called pepsin, and mucus. Okay, HCl, pepsin, and mucus. So let us try to understand what they will do. HCl means what? Hydrochloric acid. It is released by the gastric gland. So it will make the food acidic. What it will do? It will create the acidic medium. And the major role of the HCl is to make the food acidic and kills the germs. Why it will create the acidic medium? Because the enzyme pepsin will digest the proteins into amino acids only when the food is in acidic medium. Food acidic medium, when it is there, then only these enzymes will become active. Then they will act on the proteins, break down, convert into amino acid. Now here proteins are the complex food substances, amino acids are the simpler food substances. It is helping in the digestion process of the one such nutrient so called protein. Next one, we all know that HCl is strong acid, hydrochloric acid. It might burn the inner lining of the stomach, right? To protect the inner lining of the stomach, there is something called the mucus. So here if the mucus is secreted here in this region, and here if we have the HCl, then definitely it will not burn the inner layer of the stomach. That means mucus will protect the inner lining of the stomach. Three major things in the stomach. One is HCl, the next one is the pepsin, and the mucus. Okay, sometimes what the question they'll ask, what is the role of the HCl in the stomach? What is the name of the enzymes which will digest the proteins in the stomach? Or what are the secretion of the gastric gland, and mention their role. Like that they'll ask question, very important. So HCl will make the food acidic so that it will kill the germs, and also it creates the acidic medium so that the pepsin can become active and break down the proteins into amino acid. Next one is the pepsin. Yes, pepsin will digest the proteins or break down the proteins into amino acids, and mucus will protect the inner lining of the stomach from the HCl. Okay, so food will stay in the stomach about 3 to 4 hours. And lot of times 3 marks question in your midterm or the board exam will arise from what? Small intestine. Actually, the length of the small intestine is much more than compared to that of the large intestine. But the width of the small intestine is smaller than that of the large intestine. And remember, one more interesting thing I forgot to tell. The small intestine of the herbivorous animals are longer than that compared to that of the carnivorous animals. The reason behind that, the grass eating animal, the grass is made up of rich amount of complex carbohydrate, so called cellulose. To digest that complex food substance cellulose, it take much more longer period of time than compared to that of the meat. Hence, grass eating animals are having longer small intestine than compared to that of the carnivorous animals. So, in what happens in the human beings, let us try to understand. That is the small intestine. Again, longest part 7 meters, 7 to 7.5 meters, coiled site of complete digestion. Remember, complete digestion takes place in the small intestine only. Large intestine, no more digestion. Over. Small intestine, digestion will be complete. Start where it will start digestion? Mouth. Where it will over? In small intestine. Remember that. Now, 2 major glands are associated with the small intestine. One is the liver, another one is the pancreas. Let me explain a little bit better in the separate scheme. So it will be helpful for you. That is here. Yes, this is better. Now see here. So we are discussing about the small intestine. Small intestine. Liver, it is the largest gland of our body. It will secrete the bile juice. One thing. Then we have the pancreas. Liver will secrete the bile juice. Remember, liver will secrete which juice? Bile juice and bile salts. So the acidic food which is coming from the stomach, this bile juice will convert acidic food to alkaline, or it creates the alkaline food. Why? You will discuss later when you're discussing about the pancreatic juice. Now you remember, bile juice will convert the acidic food into alkaline. That is basic medium. Bile salts will help in emulsification of fats. Emulsification of what? Fats. That means it will break down larger fat globules into smaller fat globules. Means whatever the large fat globules will be there, no? So it will break down into small fat globules. Why? You will understand when you are discussing about the pancreatic juice. But you remember these two now. Is clear? Liver will secrete the bile juice, which will convert the acidic food coming from the stomach into alkaline, and liver will also secrete the bile salts, which will help in emulsification of fats. What is emulsification of fats? Breaking down of the large fat globules into smaller fat globules. That process is called as emulsification of fats. Pancreas will secrete pancreatic juice. Inside that pancreatic juice, we have trypsin, and also we have lipase. Trypsin, see here, SIN, trypsin. There we discussed in the stomach. Pepsin, SIN, both are like brothers. Both will, what they will do? They will digest the proteins. So trypsin also break down the proteins into amino acid only when the food is in alkaline medium. That's the reason bile juice has converted acidic food into alkaline. Hope now this is clear. Then lipase will break down the fats into fatty acid and glycerol. Simpler food substances. Fats are complex food substances. Fatty acid and glycerol are simpler food substances. Which enzyme is breaking down? Lipase. So, to make the job easier of the lipase enzyme to break down the fats and fats into fatty acid and glycerol, the bile salts converted the large fat globules into smaller fat globules. Why? So that it will be easier for the lipase to further digest the fats into fatty acid and glycerol. Remaining any other food substances are remaining. We have the intestinal enzymes. They will break down remaining complex food substance into simpler food substances. So that means complete digestion takes place inside the small intestine. Remember that. After post digestion of everything, inner lining of the small intestine is having the finger-like projection, so-called what? So-called the villi. See here, intestinal gland secrete the intestinal juice, finally break down proteins, amino acid, carbohydrates, glucose, fats into fatty acid and glycerol. So and all. Now, absorption of the food in the small intestine. So after that, the digested nutrients should go into the blood, right? Then only the blood can transport all the nutrients to all the cells of the body. The cells can utilize in the form of energy, in the form of growth, in the form of repairing the damaged tissue, and all those sorts of things should take place. From the small intestine, what should happen? All the nutrients need to go into the blood, and that is done with the help of finger-like projections which are present in the inner lining of the small intestine, so called villi. So what are villi? Finger-like projections in the inner wall of small intestine. So what is the main function? Sometimes they'll ask. They increase the surface area for the absorption. So many millions of villi will be there. This is how they look like. What they do, they absorb the digestive nutrients, and these particular villi will be there. No, they are supplied with the blood vessels, and they drain these nutrients into blood. So, rich blood supply helps to transport absorbed nutrients to all the body cells. Nutrients are used for energy, growth, and repairing of the tissues. This is what happens during the absorption. Large intestine, it's around 1.5 meters long. Why it is called large intestine? Because of its width. So, main thing here is it will reabsorb. Large intestine, what will happen? Reabsorption of excess amount of salt and water if it is there in the undigested food. Small intestine, all the after the digested nutrients will be absorbed, the leftover food is what? That is undigested food. That will come into the large intestine. When it's passing across the large intestine, excess amount of salt and water, again it will be reabsorbed back into the blood, and here no digestion takes place. No digestion takes place in the large intestine, remember, because digestion has completed in the small intestine. So the undigested food, so-called feces, or the undigested food, will be stored inside the rectum temporarily, and it will be passed out through the anus. That process is called as what? That process is called as egestion. Hope this nutrition part is clear. So very important thing to remember here is, one is in the buccal cavity, salivary gland will secrete the saliva. Inside the salivary amylase will be there. It will convert the starch into simple sugar. In esophagus, we should remember about the peristaltic movement. Inside the stomach, we have HCl, pepsin, and mucus, three major functions. Small intestine will receive the secretion from the liver and pancreas. What they secrete, no, that juice will come into the small intestine. They are not part of the digestive system. They are not part of the alimentary canal. But their secretion reach to the small intestine. So, liver will convert the acidic food coming from the stomach into the alkaline, and that is by the bile juice. And the bile salts will break down the large fat globules into small fat globules. That is called emulsification of fats. Then the pancreas will secrete the pancreatic juice, which contains what? Which contains the trypsin and lipase. Trypsin will break down the proteins into amino acid when the food is an alkaline medium, and the lipase will convert the fats into fatty acid and glycerol. Why? Because of the emulsification of the fats. Large intestine, excess amount of water and salts will be reabsorbed. The undigested food, so-called feces, will get stored in the rectum and thrown out through the anus. So here ends your nutrition part. Any doubts are there? Please do. Same thing is given here. If you want, you can take the screenshot of this particular slide. It's very important. And next one is the respiration. So if you understood the concept of the nutrition so far, what I discussed, if any doubts are there, please mention in the comment section. I'll definitely revert back to you. And within 2 days, I'm just going to upload 2 model question paper for your upcoming midterm or half yearly exam. So please stay tuned and please subscribe to my channel. Please like and please mention your feedback in the comment section. Your like, your subscribe, and your comments will motivate me to do more sort of videos and come up with extra information related to the science subject for the class 10. Next thing is we are going to discuss with the respiration. Okay.